If you could see what poor health, poor mindset is costing you in your business, what would you change? And today I've got two legends from around the country. I've got Darren Harry over in Perth, Australia there, runs a big solar power business. He's an ex-athlete and still a superstar athlete, but he cycled for Australia for a long period of time. Darren, welcome today, mate. Great to have you on the show. I'm sure the Steel Pushers are going to enjoy talking and seeing what you've got to say.
Pleasure, mate, and thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, brilliant. And then in Sydney there, we've got Ben Salkeld from Rising Kings. He is the leader of Rising Kings. You know, I owe so much to this guy. He's put me through the program last year. You know, it's been such a great time in my life, and the things I've learned from him over that journey of the last year, and still learning every day. So welcome, Ben. Great to have you back on the show, mate.
Honoured to be here, brother.
All right, so let's crack straight into it. You know, it's all the topic that a lot of blokes don't want to talk about. It's that mindset, it's the health, it's the, you know, physical conditioning, it's the energy that we're carrying into these businesses. We believe if you're on top of this area, you're going to have a far better business and you're going to create better teams and do better things for your customers. So Ben, what's some things these guys can be considering around nutrition and training out there?
Yeah, I think if I just touch on like what you said at the start there before, which is really around, you know, this notion of health. And one of the big things that we talk around quite a lot in Rising Kings is this being healthy mentally. You know, like there's a big stigma with mental health. Not a lot of people like to talk about it. And so what we're doing is changing the conversation, which is healthy mentally. Now, healthy mentally has, you know, a wide range in what it stands for, but essentially that is the physical, it's the emotional, it's your financial, and then it's your mental, all coming together. Because every day that you're not showing up in your business on point, at your best, you are letting your business fall behind. And that means in terms of the way that you show up for your teams, the way that you're showing up in all other areas and facets of your life. And so one of the biggest things that we want to look at is, you know, how do you optimize yourself? How do you get yourself into a healthy mentally state on a day-to-day basis? And, you know, the first thing that we look at is really around that notion of the physical health, because that plays a really important part of that healthy mentally piece. And, you know, nutrition and training are the two key elements, or the two core elements that fall into that. It's like, what are you putting into your system? What's the stuff that you're putting in there on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, you know, in terms of like driving you up, in terms of giving you the energy, and then also too, what's the training, the output that's coming off the back of it. And so I think it's a very important part, because energy plays a massive role in terms of how you're showing up in the business. Like if you're coming into work off the back of, you just got up that morning, you jumped on your iPhone, you checked some, you know, emails, you jumped in a shower, and then you race into work. The next thing you know is you're in there flat, you know, low energy, walking around the office, sipping on a coffee, trying to tell everyone to, hey, I need your operation levels at this, you know, up here, sales guys, get up here, marketing, get up here, operations, get up here, yet you're showing up at this level. And so there's this discrepancy. And so that's why I think it's such an important part as a leader, as, you know, for men and women in terms of day-to-day, in terms of what they want to get out of their business, is that state of energy. How are you showing up in your business today? And the things that you need to look at is, how are you eating? So what's your nutrition look like? And how are you training? You know, one of the big things, and I'm sure Darren can touch in on this, is, you know, it's like looking at how much sugar is in your diet on a day-to-day basis. What's the first thing you're putting in your mouth first thing in the morning? You know, Darren, if I speak to you, brother, you know, who's been through Rising Kings and is, you know, one of our leading advocates, part of the director team, you know, you've recently had a challenging couple of weeks, or challenging week in business. What did you have to do in order to handle that with your mindset, your physical health, and your emotional state?
Mate, I, as you know, when I came into Rising Kings, as being an athlete, I was addicted to sugar. And one of the key things that I did, and probably one of the greatest challenges in my life, was eradicating it from my day-to-day diet, which has had a profound effect on my attitude and my mindset, because and the people around me have voiced this to me, is my moods have gone from being, instead of a roller coaster, very consistent. And what it allows me to do is to bring a different energy to the table every day, because I'm consistently eating good food. And look, I went a step further, and look, it's not for everyone, but I went plant-based. And I went plant-based 10 months ago. And again, there's a stigma of being around plant-based, being vegan, you're a stick figure. I'm not a stick figure, you know. And
I've grams have shrunk a little bit, mate.
I've never eaten so much better. However, bigger picture is I recognised there was a better way, and I recognised, how do I be a better version of myself? And diet was a massive part of it. So, you know, and I have a rule in life now that I do not eat food that has greater than 5 grams per sugar per 100. And it enables me to have a fantastic lifestyle. And all it is paying attention to detail on the food before you put it into your mouth. And it's a discipline, and it's a routine, and it enables you to have a consistent diet day to day. So
yeah, I can really relate to this one. I remember you, you know, talking about the sugar thing of just being fully addictive, and it totally is. I mean, I was like, rightio, no sugar, you know, and 3 days in, I was screaming headaches and just not operating too well. But after that week, the clarity that came back, and then sort of the pause as well, where you weren't just like up and down and a lot more emotional. I think you can just hold it on a nicer level where you've got a sustained energy.
Which is I was going to say, which is such an important role as a leader in business. Like if you've got if you're a leader and you're sporadic and you're coming in and it's like, oh, who have we got today? You know, have we got that chaotic, manic, angry, pissed off leader, or have we got that leader who shows up sometimes where, you know, they're in a state of calm but there's no like consistency, and a lot of it just comes down to exactly what you said. You know, like in the morning, that's the best time to speak with your leader because they're high on coffee, they're high on sugar, and it's all good. So it's like going to speak with your leader first thing in the morning after he's, you know, had his buzz. But you go and try and speak with a leader at 3 p.m. in the afternoon who's been on that type of diet, and they're in the crash, and they're like, get out of here, I can't think straight, I need time. You know, that's a detriment to a business overall. It's a detriment to your employees. And that's just in business. Like imagine how they're now, like when you go home and you're trying to, like my wife, you know, she's always on to me. My kids are always at me, and it's like, of course, man, you got no energy because you're fueling it incorrectly. And I think that's the key premise that we're trying to get across here is, you know, you've really got to handle that, you know, at its top level. Like if there was one thing that I could say off the back of this is to look at, is just start with your nutrition. Like get that way more balanced, and you're going to have a much more productive, effective, and like you said, clarity, and which leads to focus in your business. So I think it's huge. And then tying in with the next piece that I think is worth sharing is around attitude, right? Like the fuel that goes into your system impacts that attitude, the way that you think and act on a day-to-day basis. And going back to that healthy mentally premise, it's really around like, how are you showing, like, are you in an abundant state? And this is, you know, for all of us as leaders, as we walk into the office, like, are we walking in healthy mentally? Are we walking in with that positive attitude and mindset that says, hey, today, regardless of how challenging it is, like, that's just fucking business. Like, we just got to be honest here. Like, business is challenging. Like, there's never a day where it's not. When things are smooth, we're looking for the next opportunity to go bigger. So there's new challenges. We're always on that rise and on that growth. But it's like, how are you showing up with your attitude? Are you coming in positive, connected, empathy, kindness, driven, clarity, focus, or are you coming in the complete opposite? Down, pissed off, frustrated, annoyed, you know, COVID's destroying everything, and, you know, the news is telling me this, and social media is telling me this, and it's just a pissed off world, and I can't get anything done. You know, that attitude really has a massive impact, not just on yourself and not just on your family, but when you walk into a business, like, that's the first thing a human being picks up on, is just your vibe, your energy. And I think that tying in with like the nutrition and the training is this level of attitude and how you show up, you know, like us three here on this session here today, as we talk, you know, like there's a different type of energy. Like I operate at a very high level, like, and I know Darren does as well, and I know you do as well, Steve Krebsy. You know, we come across people who are operating down here, and I'm not against it, but it's just like, you can change things. Because people are like, fuck man, how come you guys are so like on point? I've got this energy, so driven, so energized. And it's like, because we're doing the consistent work every single day in order to do that. You know, we want to make sure that we have this healthy mentally piece that's sort of at the top in terms of physical, mental, emotional, even financial, like getting all those pillars in check on a day-to-day basis. And I think it's so important that we look at that as leaders in everything that we do, like everything from responding to emails, to phone calls, to Zoom calls, to, you know, running your teams face to face, but also too, how is it in your home environment? How are you showing up as a husband and wife? How are you showing up as a father and mother? How are you showing up even for your parents, like as a son and as a daughter? How are you showing up as a brother, as a sister? Like, I think all of this like really comes down to that attitude. And I remember hearing, it was years ago, but it was like your attitude determines your altitude in terms of like in business and life. Like the higher your attitude and the better your attitude, the higher the altitude in terms of business. Like it's very rare you will meet a successful business leader who's like down, like head down, doesn't talk, doesn't have energy. You know, the guys who are successful have a very unique style of attitude.
Yeah, no, this doesn't just magically come to us. You know, we're born like that. I think, you know, you and I had a chat yesterday, Ben. You got to earn it. And how you earn it is by the disciplines. So whether we're looking at the discipline of not eating sugar or drinking, because we all know, you know, the old business owner, you know, you can go in those spirals. And I know I've done it in the past, you know, come home from work, you know, oh, I've been working so hard today. I've had such a good day. Oh, have a beer. Oh, beer, 2 beers, you know. Then all of a sudden you've got that lack of discipline, which keeps not putting you at the optimum performance, which is 2 or 3 beers a night with dinner. And then obviously with just what we've talked about with the sugars, the level, the bodies, trying to handle that, process that at night, wake up next day, oh, feeling a bit flat, got to have coffee. So now we're having 3, now we're having 5 coffees. Then we're running to the next meeting, we're not organized. So I think it's either compounding in a positive way or it's compounding in a negative way. And that's where it leads to, and I've seen some of it around here, and I've seen it in business owners. You can see them just slowly burning out. You're like, what the hell happened to them, you know? And on the reverse of it, when you get the discipline and you make those things, you know, you get up in the morning and you do something like a meditation. I know we just talked about sugar, but meditation for me changed my life, I believe. Just it feels like it gave me so much more time to get my thoughts just calm and organized and processed in the morning, that when by the time I got to someone else, I was already very solid about, you know, what I was going to do in my day and what I needed to do. So it helped set that focus. Darren, I know, you know, with the cycling and the level you guys took it to there is just absolutely amazing. But what's some of the things, you know, the morning rituals that you do around the physical side of things?
Mate, in a normal day, like I generally try to ride 15 hours a week. So I have a rule of thumb that I create meetings with people at 5:30 in the morning that we meet to go riding, so we don't let others down. So what it does is it creates a set routine through accountability. And so it enforces that I get up and do it. So the last week, Krebsy, is, and Ben touched on it before, is I had a bad week last week, and it affected my energy and it affected my business and it affected me personally. And this was after me following a set discipline. And one of my biggest strengths has been taken away from me at the moment because I'm injured. And so I run to pain to deal with things, because I love pain. And so it's been taken away from me now, and now I'm in Pilates and I'm searching for something to be able to deal with it, like a new discipline to be able to deal things. And so it's, for me now, it's a behavior. It's like, what do I do now to deal with hard times when I need to release energies and deal with things? And I've been working with Ben now to look at journaling and meditation, of new disciplines and day-to-day routines that I can supplement my normal go-to. So, point being is I've got a set of routines, but the point is there to the wider audience is even though you've got routines, you will still have ups and downs. But to be able to come out of it, you need to get back to what works, and that is through your daily routines. Like you said, Krebs, it's either your meditation, your diet, your journaling, your exercise, and just get back to that consistent modelling of day to day, and you'll come back out of it. So, I exercise to the extreme levels. I'm also now paying the price for it. Middle age 40s and half broken, but that's
you still go pretty well for a half broken lad, I'll tell you that much. I've seen you carried sandbags and all sorts, and most of us were walking along just trying to get them to the other end of the 100 metres, and old mate here's sprinting up the course carrying a 40k sandbag. So that old body's still going all right, mate. Hey guys, time's flowing by. I've even gone over a little bit, but we've got to go to a break for you steel pushers. When we come back, we've got 3 more great topics to talk about. So see you shortly.
For me, everything I do, I've got to try and achieve this level, and I really felt like I'm at this level now.
The whole point of this for me was to unlock more potential. How do you go to the next level again, and how do you keep stepping up, even just incrementally from here on in?
I want to see what I'm capable of.
I'm in business. I felt like I was kind of stuck in a bit of a rut, and wanted to get to the next level.
So I felt in areas of my life it wasn't showing up, and I wanted somebody to hold me accountable to that.
I've got big ambitions on what I want to achieve, and if I can't be a good leader, it won't happen.
No idea really what we're in for, and I expect it to be challenging, I expect it to be tough. But if we don't have that, then we're not going to move forward.
There's a greater level. And then again, 6 months later, there's a greater level. Your awareness just continually expand to grow. Don't hold back.
That machine. You know the one. That bit of equipment you needed for a job that paid off months ago is still in your yard. Maybe it's undercover. Maybe it's out in the weather. Either way, that machine's worth less and less every week that passes. But what if we could connect you with nearly 100,000 genuine machinery buyers searching for capital equipment like yours, but are leaving because they're not finding what they're looking for? We're talking about business owners, project managers and operators just like you, urgently looking to service their next job. And they're looking on a marketplace that only sells machinery. It's time to sell. It's time to turn steel into cash. Machines for you. Buy better. Sell faster.
All right, welcome back to all you steel pushers out there. I'm sure you're enjoying these 2 larrikins here, sharing some of their great insights. And now we want to just have the conversation around environment, because I think we all know the environment's pretty important and have been.
Absolutely. Like, I read a quote recently on this, and it's like, if you're trying to grow a plant and it's not growing properly, what's the first thing that you do? Right? You change its environment. You fix the soil. You look at the soil pH. You add water to it. You look at its environment. Is it getting enough sunlight? Is it getting enough air? Is it in the right conditioning? That's the only way you can get that plant to grow. Yeah, when it comes to us as humans and we're looking through and we're trying to optimize the way that we show up, how often are we taking a look at our actual environment? We've been recently talking around, the individual and the stuff in terms of like nutrition and training and getting, working on your mindset as well as, like emotional connection, etc. But in order to really help accelerate that, the biggest thing that I can offer advice on here and support on is your environment. In regards to, like we're talking before, like you want to reduce sugar in your diet, great. Get it all out of your house. Like you really have to game this in a way that's going to support you. You know, when I stopped drinking for 90 days back 2 years ago, that's where it started. I was just like, I'm just going to do 90 days, no alcohol. I had to get it out of the house because it was there. It was always, it's like, I've got to use willpower to stop that. And that's exhausting. Like every day using willpower to stop it. So I had to like create the right environment to support with that. And then it's the environment as well, like for your mindset, right? Like what's your environment look like in terms of physicality? Like, is it nice, clean, lined up books, all color coded as you can see here? Or is it like is it a mess? Right? And then, and you got to look at every single element. What does it look like when you step out of bed? Are there clothes on the floor? Is there stuff everywhere? Is it messy? Like, what does it look like when you go downstairs into the kitchen? Again, is it all messy and out of control? Because that's producing a chaotic mind. When you step into your car, are you walking towards a messy car and you're always thinking, man, I got to wash this thing? Are you hopping in there going, man, I got to clean this thing out? And then you get to work and you're going, oh man, I need to clean my desk. I need to clean like that is just destroying your mental state from all day. And even though you're there thinking, I'm going to be productive and focused and all these things, it's these little things in terms of your environment that are impacting them. So it's very important that you set your environment up to support you and accelerate these change of behaviors. So, and I think that's the value of environment. Like it's like the best bang for your buck that you can get when you really want to change a habit or a behavior. So one of the things, and I'll shut up here in a second, but one of the biggest things I've made a change on was, I can't access any internet on my phone. Well, when I say internet, I can access emails, but I can't jump on a website. And the reason for that is I eradicated Facebook, Instagram, all those apps off the phone, but I was still able to access them through browsers. And then I found myself like I'd be looking at the news, etc., just randomly. I'm like, this is time vampire. Like this is the stuff just sucking time out of my life that's not necessary and impacting the inputs that are going into my mind. And so I've switched all that off. And so now anytime like my kids ask me a question, I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, just Google it. I'm like, I can't. I don't have it on my phone. So we have to go old school, got to go to books, etc. But what I'm saying here is like, that's how intricate you must get when you're designing your environment to support you to operate at your best.
Yeah, that's really cool, mate. And Darren, you and I were chatting last year and, you're telling me about you were sponsoring one of those V8s, with Airbus. And I was like, oh, you must be so cool having the logo on the side and you go, along and see all the races. And you were like, a big part of why you did it, because you loved the environment, didn't you? Because you loved the standards of being in the workshop and just seeing it operating at such a high level. So can you talk us through a bit about that? Because that so excited me.
Absolutely. A very dear friend of mine, Barry Ryan's the CEO of Airbus, and EGP put their sticker on it. And I did it for a reason, Krebsy, because it reminds me of the high standards that's required for optimum performance. And you look at a tennis player, you look at the environment that's around them. They have an entourage. They have an entourage for a reason, and that is to uphold standards, to minimise their exposure to distractions, so their mind is on the game because they're focusing on the prize. And that is the life of a sportsman, because you do not get paid unless you win. And so they protect it. It's no different in business. You don't get paid unless you get the deal. So how do you then create that environment to bring the best version of yourself? And I love going to the VAs because everyone knew their role, everyone had a responsibility, and everyone knew which place, where it fitted and why. So there's clarity and clear understanding of where everyone fits. And for me to just go and watch that, it's a reminder. And you go back and review your own business and you go, right, does everyone in my business know what they're doing and why? Are they aligned with the team goals? And so it's just a really great reminder, although it's sport, visualize that V8 supercar team as your business and then try and mirror them side by side, and you'll clearly see if your business is strong or weak. So that's why I do it.
Yeah, I love that, because when I went along to the Code Black down in Sydney, there in the Blue Mountains with you, Ben, and we rocked up, and we bring the old messy suitcase and what have you, and it started right there. And by the end of the weekend, throughout the program, by the time I got to the weekend, my mindset was just forever changed in my standards, because it challenged some of my beliefs that I had around my body, which then opened up what other beliefs that I have around my standards within my business. So when I came back that next week, I know there's a few uncomfortable people around the office, because I could just see it for the first time, how we'd let standards slip in certain areas. And it's all these little things, you know, was the chair pushed in on the desk? It starts at that level and it just keeps going. And is the salesperson making 15 calls today, or are they making 3 calls? It is just right throughout it. But once I got my head around standards and what's needed to operate in these high level business, because if you're in business, you're a gladiator in this day and age, because business is competitive, whether you like it or not. So once I came back from that cone black with the new standards, I could then implement them in my business, and it's definitely worked. And I know you've got a lot of experience around this, Ben.
Yeah, there's one thing that trumps all this that if I could give to the viewer right now, which is, if you're not happy with the results you have, or maybe you are happy but you want bigger results and you're wondering why it's not happening, you get what you tolerate. It's just all sits at what you're willing to tolerate. So like you said there before, you might have a business that's successful, but you can't seem to break through to this next level. Maybe it's sitting around 10 million, you want to get to the 50 million mark. Maybe it's at 5 million, you want to get to 10 million. Maybe it's at 1 and you want to get to 5, or maybe it's 500,000, you want to get to 1. And you're like, I've just been sitting here for 3, 5, 10 years at this same level. I'll tell you, it's because you are just accepting, and you have a standard that you tolerate. And in order to get to that next level, you have to lift your game in terms of your standard. You have to be willing to not tolerate the stuff that you currently tolerated. You know, there was like exactly like you said there before. Like, do your team push the chairs in when they're finished, or the chairs just like thrown out across the floor? And people are, man, what's a chair got to do with it? It has everything to do with it. It's these standards. It's what are you willing to tolerate? When you get crystal clear on, hey, these are my standards, this is what I'm willing to tolerate currently, then it's like, okay, what or how do I lift my standards to this next level? But the first thing is, you as the leader, you must first uphold it, and then you can hold your team to it. And that's authentic leadership. And I think that's the biggest piece of advice I can give anyone. If you're not happy with what you have, it's because you're tolerating it, and you must change that first.
Yeah, I love that, man. And that leads into, Darren, you know, the people around you. How important is it? How important are your peers, whether it's at home, whether it's in the business, whether it's whatever it is, how important are your people around you?
Absolutely, mate. I still train with ex-athletes that are Olympic world champions. You know, the guy that I train with, Graham Brown, is a 3-time Olympic champion, world record holder. And, you know, we meet at 5:30 in the morning, and the standard of our training is just on another level. And so, you know, it excites me to be associated with, you know, people that just have the highest standards, but it's a choice. So I choose to train with him because I choose to train at that standard. And so it's a reflection of my mindset. And so by me doing that, Krebsy, what happens is, when I've got the right mindset, especially in sport, it brings forward the right attitude. So you can't have the right attitude if you don't have the right mindset. And so by creating an environment, you're putting yourself around people that have exceptionally high standards. And it's like it's an integrated proposal. So, you know, by having the right environment, by putting the right people in place, you come together and it creates a mindset or an expectation of certain standards. And by that being in place, you bring the right attitude into the business, and you bring the right attitude into training. So again, it's creating that environment and putting that environment in place as a leader in business, and surrounding yourself with a team that has, you know, the right visions, the right creativity and innovation. Then you have a successful business.
Yeah, and then it goes back into the people we're employing, or the people we've got in our business. Because once you've got those standards and you're clear about what you're about, then when you're interviewing someone, it becomes very obvious. You know, I had a guy who, he was the absolute right guy for the business, and he turned up late to 2 interviews. First time I took it and I just listened to his story all about the traffic. Traffic was terrible this morning. Yeah, kind of bad, wasn't it? It was bad for me too. I still got here early and on time. It's interesting. Second time he did it, got to the end of the interview. I actually used up a bit of his time and then said thank you. But no, it won't be going ahead. And then of course he did the silly thing of asking me why, and I'm like, do you really want to know? He said yes. I said, oh good. Let's go into why then. He turned up late twice to an interview. What are you going to do with our customers? You know, you're going to have 80 to 100 customers. How many times are you going to turn up late to them? What are they going to feel? How are they going to feel when you turn up late? Their time's so important to them. There's steel pushers out there. Time's an important commodity, isn't it? So he was pretty shocked at it and wanted another chance, but that was my standards. It was like, no, you're showing who you are. You're a zebra. I'm looking for a lion. I can try and paint you up as a lion, but you're always going to be a zebra. You can evolve and learn and change, but I'm not going to go through that process, so it was no. And that
especially in times like this, Krebs. Yep. Especially in times like this, when times are tough nationally, and standards is where it's at. Providing better service on time. It's really when it's critically important right now to be at your best.
100%. You got to be delivering massive value to your customers, or they won't be your customers right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So time's absolutely flying by. Ben, what's a couple of things we can really give some of these steel pushers that they could tangibly take away and just go and do it the next 30 days?
Yeah, I think if we think of three pieces that you can take away from today. The first is creating a morning routine, right? By design, not by default. The routine that you have at the moment is for 99% of people, it's the default routine they've fallen into. And it's usually surrounded by poor habits, checking their phone first thing, jump in the warm shower, and then they get dressed, they go downstairs, they quickly, eat poor nutrition, have a coffee, and then they get to work, and then that's their morning routine. So the first thing is design a morning routine that helps you, that drives you, that gets you into a good peak energy state and attitude before you even get to work. And this is important for your family as much as it is for business and for yourself as well. Now, as I said, Krebsy, I'm happy to supply a free 7-step that we use. So make sure you check the show notes, guys, off the back of this. There's a free these are the 7 steps, but I've also put together a workbook. You follow the workbook, it just comes down to your commitment. If you're serious about this, follow the fucking workbook. And that's going to help you put in a morning routine by design that's going to help you across those power pillars we talked about before. Your head, your mindset, your health, physical, your emotional health, and also your financial health in terms of business. The second thing is around designing your environment. Just raise your awareness on this for the next week. Just be asking yourself the questions. Is this environment supporting the type of person I want to be? Because if it's not, then you need to change it. Now, environment there's the physical environment, but there's also the environment, what we were talking about before, your peer environment. Are you surrounding yourself with the right people? One of the biggest things that we have inside Rising Kings is not anyone can join. We're going to make sure we got the right guys in there. And you guys are a testament to this. It's tough work and it's challenging, but we surround ourselves with men who drive us, inspire us, empower us, and support us, because we know we can lean on them because they have the high level set of standards that we all uphold. So make sure you look at your environment. Are you creating the right environment that's driving the right attitude for you to create that, healthy mentally outlook in terms of business and in life? And then the third piece that I'd say is commit to one behavior challenge for the next 30 days. Maybe it's sugar reduction. Maybe it's alcohol reduction. Maybe it's literally the way that you show up as a husband or a wife for your partner. Maybe it's something you do with your kids, no swearing. Maybe it's no shouting. But the reason I want to do this, rather than going from 0 to 100, which is really hard because you'll do that for a week to 2 weeks, but then it just gets too hard, right? And we fall back down to, again, what we're willing to tolerate. But if you just take one step and just say, I'm not willing to tolerate anything below that anymore. And you know, over 30 days, you'll lift your new standard to that level. Then you do it again, just repeat, just add one. And then over time, you know, that starts to add up. But I feel what a lot of people do is they go, yeah, this is awesome. You know, I've heard Tony Robbins, or I've listened to the guys from Rising Kings, whatever it is. It's like, yep, I'm going to crush it tomorrow. I'm all in. But by day 3, day 4, you recognize it's a lot of effort. It's a lot of energy to uphold that every single day. And it's without the right environment and support network, it will crumble down very, very quickly. You know, in Rising Kings, we do drive that fast and accelerate it, but we're surrounded by a specific unit that allows that to happen. But if you're just doing it by yourself, it is very challenging. So just pick one behavioral change, put that in place, commit to it, and nail it for the next 30 days, and then do the next. And that's how you make like lifelong lasting change.
Yeah, I like that. It's what we talked about before. You've got to earn it. And then
got to earn it.
If you can pick this one thing and prove to yourself that you can do it for 30 days, because you're right, you're going to get about 6 days in, or the 14-day thing in. And then it's like, just take today off. You take today off, it's gone. Forget about it. So that at that mindset moment where you have to go, no, I said I'm going to do it for 30 days. Have a marker, you know, put the 30 days on the mirror. Go and cross it out every day and look at yourself and go, I did it. Because what happens is discipline creates discipline and success creates success. So that was one of my biggest learnings with Rising Kings, that you've got to be able to do it yourself before you can get other people to do it. So 3 amazing takeaways there. Time's absolutely flying. It's been such a pleasure having you guys on. Darren, bro, good to see you. Good to have you on the show. Mate, I'm sure we could have chatted for 3 hours, the 3 of us. Ben, great to have you, man. I'm sure the Steel Pushers got plenty out of that, all the business owners out there. So check the comments bit. We'll put the that little list of things you can do in the morning. Use it, get into it. If you've got any questions around it, reach out. But all the best to you Steel Pushers out there.
Yeah.
See you later.
Stay strong.
Yep.
Later.